So today we're going to be about talking about how to communicate your brand logo, your assets pretty much. We call them assets, but a lot of people don't know the language. So obviously we're here to educate you, to give you as much information as we can. And so in reality, like what happens like when you have a logo, when you have, your colors, your all your branding, maybe you've done it on your own, but now you're looking to get something extra. It happens to us all the time where a client will come,
Mhm,
someone that didn't start with us,
mhm.
and tells us that they want work done. Let's say it's swag, business cards, t-shirts.
A
Uh,
sign,
yeah. What else?
uh, all sorts of things. I had, name tags. Name
Okay.
tags, the swag could be, pens or, labels. One time a client asked about a label.
Folders, presentations. And so we ask for certain things. And the first thing that we ask is, do you have a brand guide? And most people are like, what is that? And it's what we want to teach about today. We want to be able to help you. So if you have already all this stuff, and also so you know what we provide, because we provide a brand guide for even our smallest like logo kit. We have a brand guide for people.
I pulled up the XD on all those brand guides of all of the 14 logo styles that we have,
Okay,
so you can
awesome.
see them all in, like, succession.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, so we'll show you a little bit of all that because we want to be able to, so you won't get gypped as well. Like if you, let's say you don't come with us, but you have another designer in mind,
Yeah,
and these are expectations you should have and
yeah.
should be part of a logo kit or whatever little package they do for you.
Mhm.
So if you're looking for a web designer or a graphic designer or a logo artist and they don't give you a brand guide, then you have issues because you should be able to communicate apart from them, because we're not trying to keep you. Like most of our clients stay with us because it's ongoing. They want to, do different assets as they go on and they grow, right? But it's not a requirement. Like at the beginning, when we do a branding for them, even if it's tiny, we go ahead and give them a brand guide. The brand guide communicates to any vendor. And this is not only for graphic designers, but to a printer, to what else, Nicole?
Uh, it could be, an embroider. People that need embroidery, oh man,
Correct.
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Let me add to this. So a brand guide could also vary. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big, huge book. It could be as small as just a simple one pager that shows your colors, it shows your fonts, and it shows like the weight of the fonts and how things are positioned, especially with your logo. Most often, brand guides do not include the brand voice, the brand tone, and a lot of the messaging, which I'd love to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But it's mostly about the visual side because what ends up happening is there's a designer that does the logo, okay? And they prepare this let's say the Pantone colors. I happen to have the book. Here's the Pantone colors. So this is quite common in the graphic design world. They have these books and they have to pick out what's called Pantone colors, aside from red, green, blue, which is RGB, and then the CMYK, which is for print. And it gets complicated. And clients have a difficult time understanding all of this. And so if there's no guide, they are not able to send the correct logo file over to the vendor. The vendor will then call up the client and go, this is not actually going to work for what you need done. In other words, sometimes a JPEG of a logo may not work for embroidery, But more often than not, that's what ends up being given to an embroiderer. A client will then call us up and say, hey, can you help? And so we'll start to ask, well, do you have a working logo? And then they say, I don't understand what a working logo is. And so then we have to explain, well, it is a file that was created in a program like Illustrator or Photoshop. Photoshop is actually not the right program to build it in, but it starts to get the client thinking. And so they then find out who originally did their logo. Or sometimes I've had this happen. A client will remember that they gave a logo file over to a printer from like 3-4 years ago. And they'll say to me, oh, I remember I sent this logo over to the vendor about 3 or 4 years. Let me go call them up and find out if they still have it on file. Lo and behold, they did. And then I'd get that logo file. Sure enough, it worked. Okay, so you receive a brand style guide, and then you also receive a logo bundle. That bundle is a folder that contains all of the breakdowns for print, for digital, and working. The working files are great for these vendors because the vendor cannot do much with just a PNG file or a JPEG. And I know this sounds a little technical, and I'm doing everything I can to make it sound like it's simple. But brand guides help because they communicate this language. And you don't have to worry about a thing because you get this document from us. And so we're talking today because these brand guides can be as little as just a simple one-pager, and they can grow as large as its own website. Aside from a corporate company website, a branding guide can be as large as a separate website. And that's what people don't fully understand, because you could do a logo job for as little as what do we charge?
$4.97.
$4.97 for our logo kit, right? Okay.
Mhm.
That's the low end. A high end, not even us, can go as high as $60,000
More,
or
something.
higher, much higher.
Yeah.
So
Isn't
why
it
is
Bank
this?
of America that was like $2 million?
Yeah. And so there's so many reasons why,
Yeah.
because of brand workshops, because of focus groups, because of the research that gets pulled into all that. Well, then when you get down to the technical aspects of these brand guides, they have to be so extensive, especially for a national brand, that multiple agencies will end up having to resort to this one focal point, and they all access the same place. This helps with consistency. And so you want your brand to look cohesive. Well, can you imagine you have a bunch of brand managers? They're going to be, well, not necessarily brand managers, people that are going to be working with the brand on social, on print, on the website, and on other various marketing materials, advertising campaigns. I worked on advertising campaigns, and let me tell you, I had to access brand manuals just so that I could make sure I was getting the right colors. And we're talking a hex code. This is those 6 little digits that you see with a little hashtag. It's super important, because if you don't get that right, the corporate company will nail the agency and say you didn't get that right. And it ends up becoming a factor of whether or not you're in relationship with them. That's how important this stuff is. So we carry the same best practices down to this level because we think that this brand guide is so important that we would have whittled it down to its very core essence to hand to a client, because we know it's super important for you.
Yes. You want to show them what a little small brand guide starts with?
Yeah, I could show I can show the array of all 14, and then I can zoom in. How does that
Okay.
sound?
Sure. I
Okay.
mean, let me know so I can give you. But yeah, so these are the smallest guides. These are not the custom guides that we give for our clients. This is like for the logo kit brand, semi-brand, semi-branding kit that we have. We're about to change the name to a logo kit because I think most people would understand better what it is. Um, but it gives, we even with that 497 price, we still give you a small brand guide for you to be able to go to printers, for you to be able to go to a web developer, to go to another graphic designer, to be able to, like she said, to an embroiderer, um, any type of, what is it called, vendor that requires your logo or whatever. You're going to be able to give them that guide if they ask. All of them do, because they want to know your hex codes. They want to know, like, sometimes it's not even the hex code. They want the other code. So there's multiple codes. Sometimes they ask for the Pantone one. Sometimes they ask for the RBG, right?
Yes. I'm
So
trying to, it's unable to share the screen. I have to figure that out. Give me 1 second.
sure. And then, as you know, as Nicole said, you have the brand guides that are like a whole website just for the corporate. And like one of them that I just recently saw was for Starbucks. And it has its own website. Like, it has multiple pages. And you're like, well, why do they need so many pages? But it's because their campaigns, everyone goes there, all employees. And you have to remember, Starbucks is a multi-billionaire company that has thousands of employees, and they all need to access this brand guide to make sure that their branding does not trail off from its original intent. And so this gives you like a path, a written path to follow, so you don't get lost. And so you keep the cohesiveness up for the brand. And so that's what we want to show today. We want to show the difference of a small one. Nicole, do you want to Slack me the stuff and I'll do it from this side?
Yeah, I got all 14 up, but I can't seem to. I'm just going to save one and then I can put it in. Just give me 1 more second.
Yeah, I'll just Slack it. And so the fact is that you start realizing that brand guides are a huge thing. So we wanted to educate on that because a lot of people don't know. And then I feel that business owners get taken advantage of because they have no idea. So we don't want you to be taken advantage of by someone else, right? We want you to have the upper hand on knowing what you should be getting from a designer. And it's important that you know this. Oh, yeah, it's coming through.
Yay.
Oh, woohoo. Okay, so these are our this is what it would look like if Adam Levine came to us and he wanted that top corner one. And so these are just an example. These are samples. These are not finals, but this gives you an idea of a template of what it would look like. So the fact is that you see on there for Adam Levine is that first one on the top right, top left. I'm sorry. Top left. You'll see that it has, Nicole, can you zoom in a little bit? Is that possible?
Let's see.
Okay.
That's the best I can do.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's really blurry, at least on my side.
I do have a separate tab showing just Adam's brand board.
Okay,
You want me to
go
share
ahead.
that?
Yeah, show that one.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. So this is what, let's say it's your name on there. And we made one, you came to do a branding kit with us, like the smallest package we have. And you picked your own colors because we always ask you to pick your own colors. We have a library that gives you access to pick your own colors and see what you feel best. And then we give you another library on fonts. And the fonts are for web or social media. So when you're going to go ahead and post, and it's going to be like your graphics on there, or if you're going to put the text inside the website, you get to go ahead and have these fonts. So anyone that would touch your brand knows that if they went to go ahead and do a website for you, they're going to be like, okay, what are your 3 web fonts? And so you're going to be, okay, my headline font is this, my sub headline is this, and my body text font is this. On here, it doesn't say names because we don't give names on here. On if you had a package with us, you would, like, our branding kit brand guide would say what type of font this was. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it will say the name. And so immediately they would know, okay, well, you have the names of the fonts. I can definitely work with that. And then you're going to see that it shows the main logo, the alternative logo, the submark. So let's say you use your submark. You know how on the top in your tabs section, when you go to a website, it has a little tiny icon. Okay,
It's
so
called
your
a favicon.
Yeah, it is called a favicon. Most people wouldn't know that. So
Yep,
well, that
right.
little tiny icon
Yep, little tiny.
is going to be, let's say, your submark. You understand? So you would see that your submark is there. So they would be like, okay, well, we can use that. And then you have your social icons. We give you social icons with our brand, our small branding package. And then we would show you like inspirational mood board, just so it would inspire you with the colors that you picked. So we have that. And you also get your files apart from this. But this would tell them, whoever comes to do your branding, whoever's going to, your printer or whatever vendor you need, is going to be like, okay, well, I have a cohesiveness for this brand. I can follow this brand guide. So this is a simple one. Like we said, this is our, most smallest.
And the colors would also have like the hex codes and the.
That's right. So this one is a sample, and we have it as a sample, and we don't have like the real hex codes on there because it would confuse people if we had something fake. You understand? And we don't want to do that. But in the real guideline for someone, it would have the hex codes right under each box. Yeah, it would have its colors in there, the codes.
Yeah, this does not.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is what a simple one looks like. You want to share, or do you want me to share? Can you share the Starbucks?
Yes. Hold on. I got that.
Okay. And so this is what Starbucks, and you can't see on here because it doesn't show, but this is an actual website. Like we said, this is so anyone in their corporation that deals with Starbucks can go to this website and can go ahead and make sure that everything stays cohesive. So go ahead, Nicole, and that's pretty cool.
I'm having fun with this bubble. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so they talk immediately about what their brand is.
Their philosophy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. You can go in, you can look at case studies. You can look at how they do their logos, their color. They talk about their voice. And this was that part where I said not that many brand guides have this. Their typography, how they do their illustration, and then their photography. Did you want to go in a certain one?
Yeah, just go in whichever one.
Okay, we can go into color. So we all know about the Starbucks screen, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, they have other greens as well.
Yes, they do.
And different whites.
Yep.
I find it funny that warm neutral is the same as their background. Oh, because it is their background.
That's right. They have a lot more color than most brands. That's another thing.
Yeah.
This is not normal for a company to have this many colors.
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
Coca-Cola, I wouldn't think does, right? Because it would have,
No, I
if I
think they might,
remember, it's mostly the red.
yeah, and they might have like five in total, which is they're white, they're black, they're red, and I think they use sometimes gray,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but they're very minimal. Most companies try to stick to less color.
Hmm.
And it's because it's easier to be cohesive. And so they show you on here everything on like how it's supposed to look for like the rewards, for their website, for their in-store signage. I mean, it's crazy that everything has a specific on their website so
Oh, yeah.
people are aware. And so this is the typography,
Yeah. Typography.
typography. I can never say that.
Yep. But see how they even have like
Yeah,
motion
they
to
do.
it?
It's pretty cool.
This is how extensive these are.
Yeah.
And it blows me away.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize how.
And it's there's consistency in all of this. Like there's a certain style to even their motion graphics. Like
Yes.
you can't just do what you want. And so that's what the guide is for. So again, you take your guide, you give it to a designer. Does the designer adhere to the guide? Or does the designer make design decisions that are outside your brand?
Yeah.
And that's what these are for.
Yeah. And so a lot of people don't really understand the value of brand guides. But if you have an extensive brand guide, like something like this, um, you definitely have, in a way, more freedom to share with others, but to stick to the brand, which is foundational. Also, like we're not talking on here, but this might be one another thing that we might want to go into is like how branding also goes with the culture. Like branding also touches culture, like employee culture, um, and the way that customers experience your brand. Because we not only do visuals, like all branding is not about the visuals per se. It's about what's underneath that you don't see that goes first to be able to create the visuals. So then it cohesively, it can be visually appealing. But at the beginning, and what's foundational is like, what is the voice? What is the messaging? What type of words are you going to use? What personality like is this brand have? What type of culture is it going to have for the employees? What are employees supposed to act on? How are they supposed to be able to speak to a customer? Like Disney is one of the most, I would say, one of the most that goes really deep into branding. Um, because when you talk about Disney and you go experience a park, they will never point. They always go, I think, like this, and they go like this, but they will never point. And this is like, it's all even down to like the miniature stuff. Um, and you're like, well, that's kind of like really strict, but it also has it. Anyone that's going to go to Disney knows what type of experience they're going to have. That's their brand. You know that it's always going to be magical because that's their brand. And so they stick to that very closely and they take care of that image extremely. Um, and I know from a consumer, you're like, well, that they try to like, put everything under the rug, like, so you're not like, but in reality, it's about, well, this is who they are. And you want to stick as close to who you are, because even in person, as a person, because we consider brands to be like a person, you you're going to keep your image the same way. So like if you're a rebel, you're always going to be like, yeah, like it doesn't matter, let's cross that tip on that line, like cross over. But if it's like a magician, he's gonna give you tricks, but he's not going to go ahead and show you like something that's not him, like caring, and he's all about, the fantasy and the magic in back of who he is, and the mysterious, because it's kind of is mysterious. So yeah. Oh, show that a little bit more, the logos from the years back. Cool. Yeah, right there. This is how the logo has changed for Starbucks. I mean, I think it was pretty bad back then when they started.
Pretty bad. Pretty bad. You did have me thinking about Chick-fil-A.
Ooh.
And I was trying to find their brand guidelines just now.
Oh,
but
okay.
couldn't find it. And I mean, a lot of times too. Oh, and that's the other thing. Like, there are these really extensive PDF guides, and they're not necessarily their own website. They're a PDF, and we're talking like well over 100 pages. Like, I found an old one on IKEA. I found old ones on Mercedes. I found one on Audi. And well, actually, Audi has its own website. But yeah, most of them are PDFs. It's crazy involved. Well,
Yeah.
and it's also because back then, people would print them out.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So much has changed. But yeah, so like you have these huge brand guides, but it helps also your business, because then your whoever is in your company can also have the same type of culture, be able to share the same customer experience. Like it's like when you go to Disney, that's a perfect example, and the employee is out of character. You already have a set expectation. And if you don't meet that expectation, people are going to be unhappy. And so that's what we're talking about. Like, how are you going to do that for your own business? How are they going to get to know that, your business is this magical place, right? And so brand guides are what helps you. It's what makes, and it also reminds you, like a lot of it has like your philosophy, it has your vision, your mission statements. It reminds you what you have set with a brand strategist, agency that does branding, um, set the tone for that company, and it's all written. And so you're like, wow, and there's a lot to it. And depending on how much you do and how much you want, depends obviously on how much time it's going to take, because like if you did any like extensive market research and you wanted the agency to do it for you, that would require a ton of time and power. So that's obviously going to be more expensive, unless you do your own market research. That's why we like in the custom branding that we do, we ask you, what are your competitors? Who, like, where do they stand? How did they position themselves? And so some of these questions will be asked, during that. So we already know that research, and then we do our own little research. But because obviously, if we had to go ahead and do research extensively, that would be a couple of $1,000, just to do that type of work, because it really is a lot of manpower and it takes a lot of time. But what else do you want to talk about, Nicole, in reference to the brand guide? Anything else that it can help them?
No, other than explaining. The big thing is really explaining about the various files and how they're used for the vendors. I mean, and even some brand guides don't go into that. Because I'll get a call back on a question like, I wasn't sure exactly which logo to give this vendor. And so that's why it's very important. But yeah, I believe we've already covered it.
Do we have the ability to show them our files, like 28 lines files, like all
Which
the different files.
you mean the
Logo
various
files.
logos?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see what I can dig up.
Yeah. Like I think a lot of people don't really fully understand how many files it can have. And this is for a custom, really, really custom um, logo. If it's a more simple one, then it has. Do we have the ability to show Pam's as well when you gave her all the files?
I need to dig up.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
So it just shows you the difference of, because you do, like, you also have to realize that building these files is not like just a one touch thing, like where you can just say, well, I want all of these. And that's it. Like, I want it in white, I want it in black, I want it in RBG, I want it in CYMK. Like, this all has to be done each one. And so, depending on your package, depends on how many files you get as well. Um, so, like, our small branding package is the kit is less files than if you had a custom, logo with us, branding. So that's also,
Yeah, I can give you screenshots.
Nicole's like,
I'm trying to grab it all. There's so much going on. So much. Okay, I could even count. I could say, hey, there are 55 files. Why don't I do that? It's going to be a lot easier.
well, because I really wanted them to see like the craziness that it can be.
Restream's having an issue with me sharing my screen. I can do Chrome, but I can't show my Finder window, like things like that. So I have to figure that out another time.
Okay, well then, I guess we'll leave it as is. Okay, so as you just heard, it's about 55 files for 28 lions. That's a lot of files, guys. And so imagine you getting a folder, a zip folder from us with 55 files, and you're like, well, what am I going to do with all these files?
Yeah, I have 13 logos in one folder, and I've got 1, 2, 3 that are roughly around the same. I include fonts, and I include the social links, typically. Yeah. And so these folders contain JPEGs at various sizes. It's none of this like little tiny 250 pixel wide logos. We're talking like 1,500 or 2,000 pixels wide. And then another one, I'll give another size typically of 1,000. So I'll generally do 2,000. I'll do 1,000. And then I will give PNG files. That's where it's like no background. It's just your logo and the background's completely transparent, which means you can take your logo and you could put it over things. You know, like our 28 lines logo in the corner. That's a PNG file.
That's right.
You need that file. And then you need a JPEG sometimes.
Yeah, and it also depends on where do you stick it. Like some platform will say, well, we need a PNG or we need a JPEG. And then you'll see that sometimes like they'll ask you for something and then it'll look like all stretched because they're telling you that it needs to be a certain size or whatever. So like there's very various ways. And so like you're like, oh my God, that's a lot. But yeah, there's a lot of files and it's time consuming. It's technical work. But we also try to provide as much as possible so you can be successful in wherever you put your stuff, right? All your brand assets. So yeah, that's all we wanted to say today. It was just more of a educational one. It's a very rare one to teach something like this. I don't think there's much information about this out there, as in like for the regular consumer, for someone that's going to buy a logo and then you have no idea. You think that you need a logo and you're like, well, it's just a one file. And it's like, no, there's multiple files. And then we also have to make sure that we give you a brand guide, because if not, then you have no idea. Like you might stretch it this way by like 30%. And then now it looks yucky and it's not cohesive. So you want to make sure that it stays, how it was made. So some of these things people don't know. And so we wanted to just educate today on brand guides and why they're so important, to assist you in the future. So if you ever have a designer, make sure you get one of these. And then we want to talk about next week. Do we have what we have? Do we know what we're doing next week?
Let me look.
Oh, I don't remember either off the top of my head.
I know, right?
It was a crazy day.
Well, he talked about marketing budgets.
We can talk about that.
Mm-hmm. We talked about, we also talked about continuing on with the talk that we had last Tuesday.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
It was intense. And it was one that we've already gotten comments and direct replies privately that it touched people.
Mm-hmm.
It might be something that we might want to talk about. Most of our clients are female, not on purpose. It's just, that's the way it's, I believe it's because of where we have shared our work. So a lot of the work has been mostly women driven. So a lot of the places that we have shared are just mostly women. And so when you have a lot of women, you get a lot of women clients. But it doesn't mean that we don't do men. We actually have a few clients that are men.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we don't do just like girly designs. We do corporate and we do all types of designs. So like a retro right now that we're making. We did an artistic, classy one just recently. I did a reel on it. And if you go to our Instagram, you can find the reel on there. It shows you like the branding and it shows you the website that we did. So shout out to Pam. And yeah, that's about it. So we can either talk about next Tuesday on that, the more intense subject, or
Marketing.
marketing habits.
Yep. There's always something we can be talking about.
Yes. So there's always something, and we are good to provide as much value as we can.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, we would love for you to ask. If you know anything about social media and engagement, please engage with our video, even if it's just for 1 minute. So we appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Nicole, you were going to say something?
Well, I just remembered you were going to do that interview on me.
Ooh.
And then I could do an interview on you too. Well, vice versa there.
Yes. People would really be interested in hearing a little bit about us. I mean, I gave an introduction kind of recently on how we started business together, but we really haven't gone into the details, the nitty gritty, the secret part that no one knows. Anyways, guys, we love you. We thank you for coming on here. We appreciate you, and we always want to help you. So if you have anything, if you have questions, please go ahead and either comment. You can send me a private message too. Like, I'm not going to bite, I swear. I think a lot of people like really scared about coming to me. And I guess it's just because of the confidence. But please don't feel that way. I'm an open book. I am always going to try to help you, and I'm here for you. So
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
I've been where you've been. I've been where no one was able to answer. And most people will never tell you to go into their private message, and email them or text them or whatever, message them, because they don't want to answer your questions. But honestly, if you're going to come to us and you need help, I'm more than happy to assist you. Am I going to give you a brand workshop for free? No, but I can definitely answer questions for you. I'm not going to do, services for free. But if you have questions about business, or how, how long does it take to do a brand workshop? How long does it take to do brand guide or whatever? Like maybe you have questions on starting a business. I'm more than an open book for that stuff. Who do I go to for something else, some other type of service? We know other owners that we connect with. We also want to start doing more of maybe start interviewing other people too, and bring value that way as well, because I think it's important. And so it's a little bit of a combination. Anyways, love you guys. We will see you next Tuesday. Thank you. Have a great day.